Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. We have more updates on crypto today as things are looking very rocky across the board. As you guys have probably heard, you probably have seen, but let's go over some of the key points anyways. And we do have some updates in regards to XRP with Ripple, and let's go ahead and get started. So first thing, we've got the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index is sitting at 29. This is from a few hours ago. I would suspect that this is going to drop down a bit because markets have absolutely been dropping in the last few hours. We can actually see that Bitcoin, while I'm recording the video, is starting to show some life, a little bit of a bounce back, but it did drop down to about $70,500, getting pretty close to that danger zone of being below $70,000. And we do have it climbing, just like I said, a tiny bit here, but it's down nearly 4% on the day. And at one point, we did enter in at $73,500. So, pretty substantial drop when you think about it. If we go ahead and zoom out even more, we can see that the volume for today already has vastly eclipsed that for yesterday. The weekend tends to be a bit slower, it tends to be lower volume. On the new day here, we have primarily two bits of news that were very substantial that I would say contributed to this major drop. And we're not just seeing that with Bitcoin, we're seeing it on other cryptos too. XRP down nearly as much as Bitcoin. BNB's off even worse. Ethereum's down pretty bad. Dogecoin, Solana's down pretty bad. And so let's go ahead and just zoom out a tiny bit more. You guys can see the Bollinger Band is starting to constrict, starting to pull in a little bit. I would suspect that's going to widen out after today's end closure because volume, again, absolutely wild. And with this volume that we have now, there's a chance that we could even break what we had back on May 29th. If it breaks above that, then we have to go all the way back to May 14th for that substantial price move day. But things have just been essentially dropping down ever since we tried to go back to a peak here on May 10th. So it just drops, drops, drops. You guys can see there's 3 days of red candles, 5 days of red candles. Then we got one, a set of four. So far, looking like probably two. If this ends up turning green, it would be very, very surprising. But maybe there's going to be other news that happens. Maybe people will just look at it as a buying the dip opportunity, and we're going to have to keep an eye on how that plays out. With it being here, just watch $70,000 and see if it manages to pull back up. I would say if it gets back with inside the Bollinger Band itself, which is at $72,400. And then up next, U.S. oil prices surge over 8%. That goes to $94 a barrel as Iran ends all negotiations with the United States. And then in addition to that, you have $481 billion wiped out from gold and silver in just 1 hour following on the news that Iran will end U.S. talks. So yeah, if you guys didn't hear about this, basically it's just like it says here. Iran is looking to not talk with the United States. I don't know if that's temporary. I feel like they're probably still going to end up talking here in the near future. But for now, it's basically them saying, look, we don't want to talk with you guys. What's going on with Israel and with Lebanon and how Israel is attacking Lebanon and they won't stop during all this. That seems to be the main precursor of why Iran doesn't want to have negotiations with the United States. And on top of that, they're looking at closing another one of these avenues besides the Strait of Hormuz. Bitcoin dropped below $72,000 after Michael Saylor's strategy disclosed its first Bitcoin sale in 3.5 years. In December 2022, Strategy sold 704 Bitcoin to realize a tax loss, then bought back 810 Bitcoin just 2 days later. This sale is 32 Bitcoin worth $2.5 million. Earlier last month, Saylor said Strategy could sell Bitcoin to fund dividends, but it would buy 20 Bitcoin for every one it sells. Strategy still holds 843,706 Bitcoin, roughly 4% of Bitcoin's entire supply, purchased for $63.86 billion. Then we have a new XRP Ledger draft amendment. It says XRPL's design prevents flash loan attacks, a common source of major DeFi exploits. So rolling something like this out would just make people have even more faith in the XRP Ledger. ETF flows. Solana and XRP spot ETFs saw net inflows last week, while Bitcoin and Ethereum spot ETFs saw net outflows. This is great news. It's not the first time that we've heard this. We've actually been seeing this as a repeated pattern. XRP has been outperforming Bitcoin and Ethereum with these spot ETF outflows, or inflows, I should say. Right, so ETF spot outflows, but XRP looking really good with inflows. Vietnam moves to recognize digital assets as loan collateral, strengthening the use case for XRP. That's good news. SBI remit just hit 2.5 trillion won, I believe, in cumulative international remittances. This is the same SBI that's deep in the XRP Ripple ecosystem, and they're moving serious money across borders. There's a crypto exchange, if you guys have not heard of this, called BTCC, and they have been around for a good amount of time. We're talking 13 years. You get access to over 300 crypto futures, up to 250x leverage, but be careful, guys. Leverage is obviously very volatile. It's very risky. So if you're going to get involved with all of that, just understand the higher the leverage, the more the chances are that you're going to get liquidated and lose everything. But you have a chance of coming up really big too. And also, there's no VPN or KYC to get started on BTCC. You can get a 10% deposit bonus if you use my referral link. You can find that down in the description below. That's if you deposit over $500 in USDT. But you can get bonuses all the way up to $10,055. If you want to look up this more, you guys can find that information down in the description below. Okay, Ripple is at Money 2020 Europe tomorrow. HSBC, Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan, Barclays, Citi, all in one room with Ripple. And then you've got somebody taking the stage June 2nd to talk crypto, going institutional. The banks are here. The rails are ready. DTCC, the backbone of Wall Street, clearing $2.5 quadrillion annually, which is wild, just chose Stellar as its first public blockchain for tokenized stocks, ETFs, and U.S. Treasuries. $114 trillion in custodied assets going on-chain H1 2027 under an SEC no action letter. And their own patent already names, get this, XRP and XLM as designated digital liquidity tokens for cross-ledger settlements. XLM gets the issuance rails, XRP gets the bridge. The plumbing of global finance is being rebuilt in real time. Also, some update right here. We have ISM Manufacturing PMI that came in at 54. What was expected was 53. And also 31 days until DTCC begins tokenizing their service with Ripple Prime working alongside. 31 days, TikTok. And we're also waiting to hear on how things move with the Clarity Act. Hopefully that continues to advance. Now let's go ahead and take a look at what's going on with XRP's prices here. We do see a drop, which is not surprising. As I mentioned earlier, we have Bitcoin and these other cryptos all dropping. The news is not great today overall. The big news, I should say. And we had a red candle closure for yesterday. With where we are right now, we are starting to see a little bit of recovery, just like Bitcoin was doing. It's essentially trying to mirror that. Let's just go ahead and show these two side by side. Zoom in a tad bit here. You got Bitcoin. You can see that bottom wick formation. XRP, same thing, right? We got a bottom wick. We've got a top wick. Same looking type of candle. So yeah, keep an eye on how Bitcoin moves. With XRP, we do have that bottom at $1 and a little less than $1.28. And notice that this lines up really well with that bottom line of that Bollinger Band. So this bottom zone right here, if that is true and continues on, then we might be looking at a top level of resistance of $1.37. But we're sitting at just under $1.37 to try and break above that nice little support line that I drew in my previous triangle pattern, which we actually saw rejection of on May 30th. This is something that I had previously talked about. And I'm not surprised that it had some issues trying to break above that zone. But now we are starting to see the center of this Bollinger Band essentially coinciding with that bottom line of that triangle pattern. So a lot of similarities starting to break between these things. You can also see that the Bollinger Band really pinching in closer together here, but the volume, just like with Bitcoin, we're seeing that upsurge compared to the last few days. With XRP right now, it is about the same amount as the full day of performance on May 28th. So realistically, we would be looking at something maybe comparable to May 18th, May 23rd, or more of an extreme scenario, maybe that of May 26th, which was a red candle day. And yes, it looks pretty scary when you're just looking at the volume candle down below. But lo and behold, you guys can see that that candle itself, the body of it back on May 26th, was less than the body of what we have for the candle today on June 1st. So don't get too freaked out with this stuff when you look at the volume and it looks really high, it looks really dramatic. There is a chance that we could still see some movement taking place. So if this has very little volume, but there's not much liquidity that we're seeing on exchanges, it still has potential to make dramatic moves, hopefully in the positive. But that's what I got for you guys in today's video, and I appreciate you so much. And thank you to my Patreon supporters. If you guys want to show support, you can find me there, Crypto Atlas, or you can become a YouTube member. Thank you, be safe, God bless, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.